I am in central Nevada doing my absolute most favorite thing, chasing pronghorn antelope. And this time there's a different twist to it. We're trying to produce this educational series, kind of a little bit like my buddy Corey Jacobson's University of Elk Hunting. We're going to do it about pronghorn. This hunt here is one that I didn't know if I was going to have a pronghorn tag this year to do this educational series. So in Nevada, they give away very few pronghorn tags to landowners who can resell them, and they are good for all the unit. Any public land and any private land you can gain access to. Well, obviously we do the public land gig, but that's how I got this tag. And if you need to change the white balance on the camera, Dale, it's because I'm smiling so much to be hunting pronghorn that the reflection of the sun is probably ruining your white balance on the camera. But no, one of the things we always do when we come to these hunts is we try to give it a day in advance. At least one day of scouting, hopefully two. With this hunt we have one day, and we'll see what we end up with. And I'm back in Nevada, where I went to college, where I lived for almost 7 years. So much public land, such quality hunting here. Most people don't think of the quality of hunting that Nevada has when you say, oh, I'm going to Nevada. They're like, really? Like, yeah.
Well, I told the crew we're supposed to be rolling at 5 o'clock. Look what time it is. 6:18.
You haven't changed the clock since you left Montana.
Well, when I say 5 o'clock, I'm talking about Montana time. I'm not talking about San Francisco time.
Oh, man. It's the first hunt of the year.
Oh, now their reasoning is, well, it's the first hunt of the year. Good thing it's the scouting day, or I'd have left them. I wouldn't even filmed it. On hunting days, if you show up late at my camp, you get left behind. They'd be playing pinball at the teen center there, shuffleboard or something at the old folks home, rather than being filming an antelope hunt. So, anyhow, we got to go find one, because there's not a lot of them here. It's going to take a while to find the one we want.
Well, the idea is to get over here on this side where there aren't a lot of people. No people, to be honest. And there's a few places where springs come down. And you can see how dry it is here. I mean, this, compared to other years when I've been here, this is as dry gets. So what antelope are here are going to be in these greener areas near where these springs are. And there's a spring right out here, there's another one up there, and another one up there. There's 3 main springs here, all about 2 or 3 miles apart. The idea would be that when the sun comes over the horizon, it'll light all this up, and you'll definitely be able to see any antelope that are out there. Their white rumps, their white sides, their white throats just stand out. This is the idea. Park, walk out to these points, look down into these spots that the people, if they are back on this road, can't see from where they are. You only got to walk couple hundred yards to get away from how most people hunt antelope. So we'll keep looking. Well, only seen 3 antelope here, and all its prime glassing time before the mirage and heat waves get here. I want to move on to the next spring and the next spring. I want to check out all 3 of these before it gets too late. Wind is blowing pretty good this morning. Supposed to be even, I think tomorrow's supposed to be 20 some mile an hour wind, so that ought to complicate life and make it a little harder to spot or to stalk. Maybe not. It might make it harder to shoot. Another downside about wind is, as a general rule, my observations have been wind makes antelope pretty skittish. They don't hang around very long when it's windy. They get on their high horse and run. So it's pretty obvious where the greener stuff is, where the better vegetation is. And that's mostly what you're looking for right now, is better vegetation, because it's pre-rut, late August. When it's pre-rut, the bucks are starting to go around where the does are, and the does are always where the best feed is. Just hands down. The best feed, find the does. And right now, when you find the does, that's when you're gonna start finding the bucks. So that's the strategy. Anything you don't want to have dusty, don't bring to Nevada. Well, we got one lone buck way out here. He's definitely better than any buck I've seen so far. There's a smaller buck here. There were 4 bucks up there, 1 buck further, so 5, 6. Seen 7 bucks. This one's definitely the best of them. Well, the good news is we found a way to break the wind. Just park the truck there and stand right up against it, and the wind just goes whew. And the even better news is I found this buck out here, and he was quite a bit closer till the camera guy scared him off a ways. But now that he's standing out there a mile away, even these guys have said, you ought to shoot that one. Is that what you guys said? Yeah, come on, Jace. Did you say, would you shoot him or not?
I would, yeah.
You'd shoot him. Dale? Dale would shoot him. All right. I'd probably shoot him too if I could get a better look at him. But we've been standing here so long now, the sun's coming up with no cloud cover, and the heat waves, mirage is getting pretty rough. When he lifts his head up higher, you can see a lot of mass. It's that rear angle that is the worst angle to judge an antelope from. Too bad it isn't seasoned today. We could walk out there and spook him off. Lob a volley at him. I say we go find some others, look around. Even if we find some other pods of antelope that we can't quite make them out, at least we'll mark where they're at and we'll know where to be checking. This end of the valley looks a little bit greener, doesn't it? The other end down there looked like Hell's half acre or something. Or Hell's 100,000 acres. I'm antelope hunting. If there's anything more fun than this, let me know what it is, because I want to go try it. So here's how complicated my life is going to be in this hunt. This guy over here tells me I got to bring a separate wardrobe so that when I'm being interviewed, I don't look like I'm out hunting. So I'm carrying extra clothes with me. And they told me to bring my Pronghorn Bible, which, if you don't have this book, Pronghorn Ecology and Management by Bart O'Gara and Jim Yoakum, you should. And I've got all my pages marked with all my talking points. I sent them all a script. And then we got the teleprompter with us, right? So All my script is gonna be on a teleprompter, and I'm gonna be standing there in my non-hunting clothes, reading all these talking points. And as I make talking points, Jace has to take that big camera around and get pictures of this type of forage and this type of forage and these kind of springs and all the rutting signs. And so if we shoot an antelope, it's gonna be a miracle. We're gonna try and get a Fresh Tracks episode out of this, but I don't know if we are. Mostly we're here to build out a course over the next year and a half, 2 years, that has as much about pronghorn hunting as we can fit in a course. And you all think that this is just fun and games, driving around looking for antelope and shooting them and turning on the camera. Never quite that easy, so.
If you end up shooting your antelope in the flat, it might be a good look. From interview to, oh, there's an 80-incher right there, grab the gun.
Right now we're watching a buck out here. There's some private down there, and he was running towards the highway. So Dale jumped out, climbed up the berm along the highway, and glassed him, cutting through a couple fences, coming on this side of the highway, which is all BLM. And he's up here now, but the mirage is so bad that you can't really hardly even make him out anymore. You can just barely see this white blob moving. But it's not been a bad morning. I mean, we've seen one buck, I think, that we're all saying, oh, we might shoot that one. And this one here that just ran across the road, he's really tall and he got good prongs. When they're running and their head is going, you can't tell what their mass is. And he's got one horn that comes a little bit forward and hooks in, and one horn that comes a little bit back and hooks. So I think he's longer than I think, or than what first impression would be. His prongs are probably 5.5. I'm guessing he's over 15. I just don't know what the mass is. So, raindrops. Cooling it off. But bringing a lot of wind. More wind. Well, there's always this idea of what do you do in a highly pressured situation or where you know there's going to be a lot of hunting pressure. Behind me here, there are 6 irrigation pivots, all on private land. So we've been sitting here glassing some really nice antelope, and people keep coming by, talking to us, and a lot of people have permission down there for tomorrow when season opens, which is great because to the east of this is all BLM. So their access is from the west. So they're gonna come from where we're at right now in the morning. We're gonna go park and make a big loop, and we're gonna be over on the east side of all this private. And when the antelope get bumped, maybe one of those nice bucks will come by us. That's the hope. Use hunting pressure to your advantage. Well, we stopped and gave it one last little look. Some more BLM right out here. We saw one buck. He's not as big as a couple others we've seen today, so we're gonna use the last little bit of light to head back to where hotel is. And we got a long drive in the morning to get to where we're gonna be. Plus we got about a 1.5 mile hike. So we're gonna be up with the the chickens aren't even gonna hardly have went to bed by the time we're getting up. So tomorrow's opening day.
Well, the good news is yesterday we overslept. Today I told the crew that we got to be rolling by 4:15, and they were in the truck at 4:05. That's a good sign. Opening day. We're gonna go make this big loop around a bunch of private and get on this BLM boundary. And if the hunting pressure is what we anticipate it to be, hopefully there'll be some antelope coming past us. Some of those fields had 40 or 50 antelope in them, and there's some nice bucks in there for sure. So that's the plan for this morning. Who knows? Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Hopefully we can find one today.
It's our guy. You aren't gonna believe this, but in the low light, we're walking out to this spot we want to get to, and the buck that we've been glassing last night stands up at 100 yards. But we could barely get him on film. Last time we saw him, he was 3/4 of a mile from right here. We're only 500 yards from the truck. He stood there at 180 yards for a long time trying to figure out what we were, but we got a boogie. He went that way. Kind of the direction we're going. I'm afraid we're going to keep bumping him. But it's good to know that this is where he likes to bed. I think we just got to be patient. It might be 5 hours before he makes his loop and comes back. But he's not going back out in those fields. There's so many rigs out there right now. I just can't believe it. When I first saw him, I ranged him, he was 180 yards. But he was standing down in a little depression, so he had a bunch of brush behind his head. I don't know if it was even legal shooting light, to be honest with you. That's one of the dangers of walking in the dark. Sometimes you'd step right on him. That's the big guy right there. The one we saw this morning. The guys out in the field, they've got a whole mess of antelope moving kind of this direction. And this buck that we've been following is up here about 700-800 yards, and we're going to go towards him because that's down here about 300 yards is the path they're taking. So if those ones get pushed, I'd like to be on that trail that they prefer. We ready? I see him now next to another buck, and it tells me that he's probably a younger buck who just is really good.
Does that change your scoring?
Yeah. I thought he was pushing 80, buddy. That one hit something. Bumped. I don't know. It's hard to tell. But don't get me wrong. If he gets in range, he's getting shot at because he's just too pretty. I've never shot a buck that pretty.
Really?
Mm-mm. Never. I mean, he hooks all the way down in.
Right.
And he's got big flaring prongs. Bummer of a birthmark, as they used to say on the far side. Time to take a layer off. Because I'm about ready to go in there and kill big game. There's some more tall bushes here about 50 yards ahead of us. We're going to go around this way and go right to them. Okay. We might be up 400 yards when we get there. I don't know. Got brush in my way, I don't have a shot. I'm gonna move forward. I gotta clear this brush. Got too much brush in my way. This one. He just won't stop. There's nothing you can do. The sage is all this stuff, and I don't ever have an open shot that I'm comfortable with. I'm gonna hit some brush. So frustrating, but that's hunting. I mean, had a 330 yard shot, finally got dead solid, but he's looking right at me. And when you take the fur off an antelope, you gotta target that wide with brush right up to here. And the camera's up above me, so it's a slightly different angle, but it's just how I do it. I'm not gonna take a shot I'm not 99% comfortable with.
Yeah.
So we might just lay it down here for a little while. Let things calm down. That guy likes using this spot. You never know if he'll come back here. Now, second guessing can begin about what I should have done and what I didn't do. And I know a lot of people will be like, well, you need a big bipod. Well, here's how tall of a bipod you would need. And even with a big bipod, if the antelope's back is only this tall, there were little windows he was going through, but I'm not going to shoot at him on the run. So before y'all get on your keyboard and start tapping out what you would have done, just take into account that there's a few complications out here. I worried about that when I saw how tall all this rabbit brush was. I'm like, ooh, this is like vital height on a pronghorn. Well, that was fun, if nothing else. So here's the deal, folks. We have a buck we've been chasing that's bedded up there. The mirage is so bad, I don't know if we can get up on him. But you ever hear the old trick of, you know, flash something white around him? I'm going to do that. I'm going to tie this caribou game bag with the Go Hunt logo right onto my tripod. Or onto my pack, I don't know what. But I'm going to kill this thing because he's not coming to us, but he's sitting there with his noggin up over the sagebrush looking around, so I take it that he wants to play the game. I've even brought my fishing hat with. Maybe that's what I should do. Put this over my fishing hat like that. Laugh it up now, funny boy. When Big Hank is laying on the deck, you'll be laughing all the way back to the truck.
I was the one that asked about using this tactic.
But you brought it up, and now you've given me the courage to do it.
Yeah. Let's do
Because the reason was, I thought, well, the camera crew will laugh at me. They'll call my wife and say, I think he's delirious. But now that you're thinking about it, I don't have to run the risk of you reporting me to my wife. We're going to go kill this thing. There he is, I see him. Tree tiny. Is that right? Let him move this way more. Trying to get through the map. If he can walk, I can walk. As long as I got water and daylight. He's hit this fence up here near this private. And I think he's trying to figure out what to do. I'm gonna nudge it, he's going this way, so I'm gonna, instead of going at him, I'm gonna go this way. He's just running across that alfalfa field like he's found his girlfriend after all this time. Like, honey, you aren't gonna believe what happened today. These guys would not leave me alone. I don't know what they wanted. They weren't shooting at me. They had two guys with these great big, like, UFO listening devices. Well, I told these guys I was gonna go back to the truck and make a sandwich about 3 hours ago. Little did they know it was gonna involve about a 4-mile loop. We were closer to those mountains than we were to the truck at one time. But the guy we were chasing, he got out here, and that's private, so. Gotta come up with a better plan. I don't know what the strategy is, but I bet you after I have a sandwich, I'm gonna know. How about you guys? He'll have better, Jay says he'll have better ideas after a sandwich. End of the first day, we came down here to the southern end of the unit for the afternoon or evening hunt, and it is just dry down here. We didn't see any antelope, imagine that. The southern end and the eastern side are just dry as dry gets. The northern and western side seem to have had moisture. It's funny, it can be that localized, but it must be. So tomorrow, we're going in to almost replicate what we did today, but this afternoon before we came down here, we went in to this other old rotten road and we marked the spot. All right, this is where that curly looking dude, this is where he came across. So we went and marked that, and then we found a little depression where we're gonna hide the truck. And we're gonna come in from the east instead of the north tomorrow. And we saw some rigs glassing those alfalfa fields again tonight. I think there's still a few people who have permission who didn't fill their tag. And hopefully they'll be there in the morning whacking at them, and they'll push them back out where we were today. And we're not gonna be as polite tomorrow as we were today. But, you know, all I can see right now is the scope picture of the crosshairs right here on that buck. And there was enough brush in front of him, and 330 yards almost. You know, you're talking a pretty narrow target there. So if he would have turned broadside long enough to get a shot, he turned, and as quick as he turned, he's heading away. And then we had another encounter with him where there was a slight depression there, and he was walking through this brush, and I could never get him to stop between some of that rabbit brush or sagebrush and other stuff. And every time he'd stop to look, his vitals were covered from my angle. We had him at one time 270, another time at 330. I can make those kind of shots if I get a shot that I think is unobstructed and I have a good rest. I would hope I'd make that shot. So it was a fun first day. I would say on that track out there, we put on, well, at one time, Dale said we were 1 3/4 mile from the truck, and we'd taken a really long loop to get there. And it was after that we really got serious about it. So I would say we put on about 6 miles out there running around today. But when you have your sight on that one antelope, you just keep doing what you got to do. If they're walking, you walk. If they're moving, you move. You know, you can't just give up on them, and I ain't giving up on that guy. I'm gonna be having some evil dreams about him tonight. There's gonna be a reckoning tomorrow. If he comes off that alfalfa field, he's gonna get a victory lap in the Raptor tomorrow.